Tonight on The Wrap, the UK agrees to pay France more than £500 million to take tougher action on migrant crossings. But opposition parties say it's just a waste of money. We report from northern France on whether today's deal can really make a difference.
The summer months which are coming are when, of course, the winds are calmer and the sea is less rough. And so the next few months will provide an immediate test for this new deal.
As Iran shows the world that its forces are still operating in the Strait of Hormuz, Donald Trump tells his Navy to shoot and kill any Iranian mine layers, as he insists he's not anxious or under any pressure to do a deal to end the war. The Prime Minister refuses to deny rumours of a cabinet rift over his conduct in the Mandelson vetting scandal.
I couldn't tell you what was going through my mind at that time. Natural instinct just took over for me to go and help him.
And we talked to the man hailed a hero for helping a stricken runner cross the line at the Boston Marathon. While discussing the day's biggest stories tonight with the Labour peer and broadcaster Baroness Hazarika and the former Conservative Cabinet Minister Justine Greening. Plus a first look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. That is from 10:30. Well, a very good evening to you, Aisha. Justine, very good evening to both of you as well. So the Home Secretary has agreed to give France more than £500 million to do more to stop migrants crossing the Channel in small boats. Is this, though, the right strategy? And do you think it will work? Justine, you go first.
I think it can help, but I think it's part of a much broader strategy that the country needs to really bear down on illegal migrants. And I think alongside this is putting in place a smarter strategy on skilled workers and if you like, the rest of the migration system. And I hope and would love it if we could just move to a more measured discussion about the fact there are different components of what drives migration. Some of them are legal, some of them are not legal. They all need distinct, clear strategies to help get them under control.
Aisha.
I agree with a lot of what Justine has said. I think, as your reporter said in that package, when the weather gets warmer and the sort of, the waters get calmer, you're going to see numbers going up. And I completely understand that a lot of people are really worried about illegal migration, but also people, are they joining up the dots? I mean, the other stuff we've just been reporting about is this conflict in Iran and conflict all around the world. Conflicts and climate change are also driving this huge migration of people to cooler climes, which tend to be, northern countries, European hemisphere. So I just think this problem is really difficult and it's not going to be solved in a way that's very easy.
Well, as part of the three-year agreement, riot-trained police will be sent to beaches in France. It will also include the building of a new immigration removal centre with more than 200 officers, that's in Dunkirk, focusing on returning migrants to their home countries or other EU countries that they've passed through. Well, the government says the deal will be a game-changer, but opposition parties say it's just more money after bad. Our Europe correspondent Alistair Bunkle reports now from Dunkirk.
We don't have any food, anything. We just try to get food there. So it's difficult. UK have more options for immigrants, that's why.
That was Hassan, an Eritrean hoping to make it from this beach across to the UK within the next month or two. But the British government today has signed a new deal to try and prevent people like Hassan from making that journey.
A big chunk of the new money that we have promised is in a flexible fund where I've been very clear we will fund only the things that we believe are going to work in order to disrupt and drive down the number of boat crossings. So the totality of this package is a huge improvement on what's gone before. It's a landmark deal and I'm very pleased to be able to sign it today.
The deal is worth £662 million over 3 years. That money will go to providing 50 more riot police to patrol the beaches, and new surveillance and drone technology to monitor the coastline. But it comes with a condition. £100 million of it could be withdrawn after a year if the British government doesn't think that the French are making enough progress.
People will still make the journey, you think?
Of course. they try, but it will be more difficult when we compare to the past days.
This is one of the main camps. We're about, I don't know, a mile or two inland, and you can kind of see the infrastructure. There's lots of portaloos here. The people in yellow high-vis jackets are charities here to hand out food. Some of those orange life vests waiting for the next moment when the winds die down and people can try and make that crossing. And when they do, they'll go from here, they'll walk towards the beaches in the middle of the night, under darkness, and then try and cross into the UK.
These deterrence policies are just putting more people at risk and increasing the risk, and we're leaving people into the hands of everything that can happen at the border, which is smuggling, trafficking. It's not actually decreasing the crossings.
Interesting, talking to some of the charities here, they just don't think that these policies work or will work, because they say that most people here have an option. One is to remain in their home countries where they face the risk of torture or imprisonment or death. The other alternative is to come here where, yeah, sure, they face the risk of French riot police, treatment by smugglers, and of course the real risks of trying to cross the English Channel. But by comparison, the risks they face here aren't as bad as the risks they face back home. And so that is why people, in their opinion, will still keep coming to northern France to try and make that trip across to the UK.
Somalia to Yemen, dangerous. Yemen to Sudan, dangerous. Libya to Araba, dangerous. Here on UK, dangerous.
So far this year, around 6,000 migrants have made it across the Channel to the UK. That's actually 36% fewer than this time last year. But the summer months which are coming are when, of course, the winds are calmer and the sea is less rough. And so the next few months will provide an immediate test for this new deal.
Well, the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, says it won't work.
Only about a third of the people trying to leave France are being stopped. It's costing us billions. It's not worth the money. The only thing that's going to work is us leaving the ECHR and then making sure that we have a borders plan and a deterrent. Labour scrapped the deterrence, that was the Rwanda plan, and that's why their immigration policy is failing.
So the Conservatives and the Reform Party both suggesting we need to leave the ECHR. Justine, remind us what it is and why some people think that is the only way you can legitimately deport migrants back to where they've come from.
It's a long-term treaty that was put in place after the Second World War to provide some international rules that everybody agreed on how to deal with these flows of asylum seekers. Of course, the world has dramatically changed. We've seen many more pressures on migration, particularly over the last 20 years. And I think there's a real question around whether and how you might update that treaty to have it remain fit for purpose now. Behind that, though, I think, is a more substantive question, which is what's the strategy? So I think the public have got really tired of these totemic issues becoming, if you like, a culture wars fight around who can be the toughest on illegal immigration, when actually what we need are long-term strategies that can steadily bear down on the numbers of people who are arriving, but also for those that do arrive illegally, we can start to learn from countries like Denmark, like Germany, who are much more successful proportionately at returning illegal migrants who then prove to have no claim to stay in those countries.
Don't you think they're just bored of the fact that nobody can stop this happening? I mean, we see this daily, coming in. As you said, different parties are getting tougher. Reform, for example, say they'll now look back at the last 5 years of asylum grants. Anyone who broke into the country illegally, they say, or overstayed, will be stripped of their status and deported. So that is the extra toughness coming in, because people have had enough, don't you think, Aisha?
Well, it's one thing to sort of talk really tough, but there's another thing, actually, what are people actually going to do about this? And it's a bit like this talk about coming out of the European Convention on Human Rights. Well, remember, not that long ago, we were told that if we left the European Union, that would solve all our problems. We wouldn't have any problems with migration because we would, be our own people. And guess what? legal migration shot up. Illegal migration shot up. So I think, like, sometimes these things are, like, held up as these simple, sloganistic panaceas to solve this. This stuff is really, really complicated. And because we do spend it, and I'm not one of these people who diminishes how worried people are about illegal migration, but it blights the entire conversation on migration. And we're also a country who we do need people to come in with the right skills, things like our care sector, our hospitality sector, you know, our NHS. And we want to have a migration system which is flexible and which is fair, but also a bit like policing by consent. We need a kind of migration policy by consent. And I think most common sense, decent people do think if really good, hard-working people want to come here, that's fine. We don't want illegal, you know, migrants to come here, but we need to start having a more sane conversation.
Well, it sounds like you're on completely the same page on that, to be fair. But we'll come back in a minute. But people are genuinely worried about it. If you look at how people see the issue of immigration, the latest polling by YouGov suggests that 47% of people think it is the most important issue facing the country right now, second only to the economy.
But I get that, but also, just to give the full picture, legal migration, which shot up under Boris Johnson, in fact, Nigel Farage has dubbed it the Boris wave, that's now falling to the point where we might actually get to net zero legal migration, which might have unintended consequences for the economy, where the Chancellor might have to raise taxes. So, look, all of this needs to be put in the round. I understand people are worried about illegal migration, but the flip side of that is legal migration is plummeting as well.
As you said, it's a complex picture, but it doesn't take a lot to harden opinions. Those concerns, certainly about small boat crossings, thrown into further focus by a court case today. I'm sure you've heard and read about it, in which 3 men who crossed the Channel in small boats were convicted over the rape of a woman in Brighton. 25-year-old Egyptian national Ibrahim al-Sheikh was convicted of rape. He had met his co-defendant, Iranian Abdullah Ahmadi, on a small boat from France in June last year. He, too, was convicted of rape today, and the men were friends with Egyptian Karen al-Danusert, who was also found guilty of rape as a secondary party by encouraging and filming the attack. Prosecutors said in court that he had been convicted in his absence of murder in Egypt. That story makes the front pages of, for example, The Sun. Migrant rapist was on the run for murder. As I said, you know, it doesn't take a lot to harden attitudes towards people who are seeking asylum in small boats crossing the Channel.
No, it doesn't. And I think for a lot of people, they see these pictures and it just feels like it is out of control. And that as a country, we should get to decide who arrives on our shores and crosses our border, not people themselves who may start anywhere in the world and just decide they want to come to the UK. And I think there's a frustration on the fact that even for those claiming asylum, they have passed through multiple safe countries and actively taken a decision that they want to come here. When for lots of people, you'd think they're in a situation where actually they just need to get somewhere safe. And I speak as someone who spent 4 years as International Development Secretary. And I spent a huge amount of my time focused on how we can do humanitarian support for people who had had to leave their homes, often war-torn places like Syria. For most of those people, they literally would cross a border and stop because they wanted to be able to go home in the future. And what we were trying to do was to support them whilst they were there, to be able to then go back and rebuild their lives. I think this is so often something very different to that, and that's why people want to see it managed. We have a process for people to be able to come here legally, and I think we should be able to expect that people use that process and don't just unilaterally decide they're going to come here anyway.
We have had some horrific wars in recent years. You know, Islamic State, for example, people were just being shot on the street, and yet people were about to come onto a conflict with Donald Trump, and yet people have him in their ears. They've seen how he stopped migration in America, and they've heard him criticise the UK government for its ineffectiveness on this policy. You know, that is the mood music that the British people are hearing right now.
Do you know what, Anna? When the British people see their food bills go up potentially by 10% with inflation, when they see their mortgages going up by 3-4 times as a result of an insane war that man started, when British businesses start going to the wall, I really don't think the British public are going to be looking fondly at Donald Trump. I am the first person to say that we have not got a grip on the small boat situation, and the case that you raised is absolutely horrific. But honestly, I wouldn't pre-aid Donald Trump with the British people right now.
Wish we'll hear from the latest things he said. He has insisted tonight, in fact, not long ago, that he is not under any pressure over that war with Iran.
Of course he isn't.
He said he's ready to do a deal, but claimed Iran's leadership is in disarray. He warned that the US military, tonight, he said, is locked and loaded if no deal is reached. Earlier, he issued the US Navy with a shoot and kill order against any Iranian boat laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Well, he gave that order shortly after Iran's Revolutionary Guard released this footage, claiming it showed Iranian forces seizing boats in the strait. Mr. Trump says Iran's navy had been destroyed, but any small boats would be taken out. Well, to reinforce the point, the US then released this footage of US
war and or the military operation, whatever you want to call it, and they're coming to us. The problem they have is they are very disorganized right now.
Well, to counter that, tonight, Iran's surviving leaders have insisted they are united. For example, Iran's president said this: in Iran, there are no hardliners or moderates. We are all Iranians and revolutionaries. With ironclad unity of nation and state and obedience to the supreme leader, we will make the aggressor regret. One God, one nation, one leader, one path. Victory for Iran. Clearer or dearer than life. Apologies. Well, let us speak now to our US correspondent, James Matthews. So we heard from Donald Trump this evening. He also said we have total control of the strait, despite, of course, the Iranians releasing that footage from yesterday of their forces boarding oil tankers. Rhetoric certainly ratcheting up again tonight, potentially masking a continued impasse in this conflict, James.
Yeah, I think you're right, Anna. I mean, we're in stalemate, a stalemate that doesn't flatter Donald Trump. Everything he said in that news conference, we have heard before in some shape or form. I mean, he's playing for time and apparently doesn't know in which direction he will go. Part of the problem, of course, is self-inflicted, the business of who do they speak to. He spoke about the Iranians being in turmoil. We don't have a leader, or they don't have a leader, that we can speak to. And, you know, he does resist the suggestion that he is under pressure, that there is a rush. But of course, there clearly is. The Strait of Hormuz is choked. There is an ongoing impact on the global economy. So those that headline pitch that he rolls out on a daily basis now, that has to come to a close at some point. Today he was talking about how the strait will open when they make a deal or something else happens. We've been speaking, but they are in turmoil. You know, that phrase that he used, total control, as you say, contradicted by some of that glossy, highly produced video we got from the Iranians today. He insisted that Iran is not doing business due to the US blockade. Interestingly, he was asked about something else during that news conference. And I asked about Prince Harry, who has said he would like to see Donald Trump do more to bring an end to the war in Ukraine. Trump's answer to that was, please give him my regards. Prince Harry, he said, isn't speaking for the UK. I think I'm speaking for the UK more than Prince Harry, he said, but I appreciate his advice. So there you go. That's the president about an hour ago. Currently, he is meeting the ambassadors of Israel and Lebanon. They're having their second round of talks today. It was due to be held at the State Department, but it was shifted across town to be in the president, or in the presence of Trump himself, inside the White House. Clearly, he is a president invested in bringing that to a safe conclusion, at the very least, ticking off the top priority of, which is to extend the 10-day ceasefire soon to run out.
Yes, Prince Harry, of course, on a surprise visit to Kyiv, the Ukrainian capital today. James, thank you very much indeed. He roared out, as James put it. The Israelis have roared out too as well. Their defence minister, Israel Katz, has said Israel was waiting for a green light from the US to resume the war, saying that if it did, it would begin by targeting the new supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei, and return Iran to a dark age. That's what I meant by rhetoric, stepping up again today.
Yes, and it does seem that for all of that rhetoric, actually, the Iranians themselves are able to utterly disrupt the Straits of Hormuz and understand that they can do that consistently over a period of months without a huge amount of resource. And, you know, the longer this goes on, the more it almost plays back to that Iranian hostage crisis in the late 70s, early 80s, when, you know, Jimmy Carter's presidency was steadily undone by the fact that he just couldn't get this crisis finished. And in the end, those hostages came back the day after Reagan goes into the White House. But I really do feel that the Iranians understand this pinch point of the politics. By nature, they have a sense of, I don't know whether martyrdom would be the right phrase in a way, but a sense of sacrifice, and that can be necessary for the country. And so if it's a question about who can take the pain for longer, you have a sense it may be Iran, and they understand the political pressure of the midterms that Donald Trump has also coming down the track in November.
Yes, for the country and for the theocracy which runs it as well, I suppose. Now, we already know what you think about the war. You know, understanding the pinch point, which is the Strait of Hormuz, pinches us in our pockets as well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I think, you know, when you look at the rhetoric coming from both sides, you've got the Iranian regime who are incredibly cruel, but they're incredibly strategic. And you've got Donald Trump, who is cruel, but absolutely demented and totally deluded as well. And when you think about, when you just take a step back and you look at what he's plunged the whole world into, I was speaking to some very, very senior economists, we're on the brink of an economic crisis that could be like one of the worst we've seen in about 5 decades in terms of the squeeze on energy, the resulting economic crisis, which all of us as citizens, as people who, you know, run businesses, our energy costs, our food costs, all of this kind of stuff, our living costs are about to absolutely rocket. And this is because he blundered into this war without even doing the strategic thinking of looking at the Strait of Hormuz, which was clearly such a key pinch point in terms of one of the key arteries through which, you know, so much of the world's energy flows. And all he's done is he's actually kind of elevated Iran in terms of basically, you know, having us in a very difficult position.
Yes, I'm just going to butt in. We heard James suggest that discussions would be underway on Lebanon. The Reuters news agency is now suggesting that Donald Trump has said that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon will be extended by 3 weeks. How he has said that. It's on Truth Social as well. We'll get that for you in just a moment. I mean, that is better news, although how well it is being held, we don't know. Clearly, we've had the killing of this Lebanese journalist, which is on the front pages again because the funeral took place today. You know, how well that ceasefire is being maintained. But nonetheless, some relief for the people in Lebanon if the ceasefire is extended by 3 weeks, which is a considerable time, actually. He's not put a timeline on the extension of the ceasefire with Iran.
Absolutely, and there are a large number of people in Lebanon who are displaced because their homes have been in this buffer zone that Israel has created as it's pushed into southern Lebanon. And I think it's worth remembering, I talked about the Syria refugee crisis. Lebanon took 1 million Syrian refugees over a short period of time. This is a country that has had challenge from almost every side in recent years, and now it faces a fresh one with this conflict with Israel. And I think 3 weeks will be time that people appreciate to try and take stock of where this may go next.
Yes. I've got the Truth Social post. I don't know if you can show it, but if I just start to read it to you and we'll bring it up. The President of the United States, Donald J. Trump, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Ambassador to Israel Mike Huckabee and Ambassador to Lebanon Michelle Issa met today with high-ranking representatives of Israel and Lebanon in the Oval Office. The meeting went very well, exclamation mark. The US is going to work with Lebanon to protect itself from Hezbollah. The ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon will be extended by 3 weeks. I look forward to, in the near future, to hosting the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, and the President of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun. It was a great honour to be a participant at this very historic meeting. Suggestion there, of course, that Lebanon will work to protect itself from Hezbollah. Now, what does that mean in practice? Because Lebanon has never been able to control Hezbollah, which is more militarised? It's been a difficult issue for the nation.
Absolutely. And look, Hezbollah is no friend of the ordinary citizen in Lebanon and has brought, you know, horrific pain and suffering and violence to that country.
Oh, in fact, we've got Trump talking live about it. Let's listen.
You get this worked out simultaneously with what we're doing in Iran. And I'd like to start by just asking JD, our Vice President, our great Vice President, to say a few words, and then Marco will speak, and then the representatives from the country. Mike Huckabee, you'll say a few words, Mike. You've done a great job, by the way. I appreciate it. Everybody does. And JD, please.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, congratulations. Congratulations to you and our Secretary of State, but most importantly, congratulations to the people of Israel and Lebanon. I think it's a major historic moment. We're going to extend the ceasefire for 3 weeks that's already in place between Israel and Lebanon. Of course, it wouldn't have happened without the president's direct engagement. The fact that you have these leaders of different countries coming together for the first time, they came together in the Oval Office, and they came together because of energetic diplomacy, of course, led by the President of the United States. So I think it's a big moment for the world. It's a big moment for our country, but just very proud to be a part of it. So thank you, sir, for making it happen.
Thank you very much, JD.
Thank you, Mr. President, for hosting this. Actually, you know, the president wanted to be personally involved, and I'm glad he was, because it made it possible to get this extension. And it gives everybody time to continue to work on what's going to be a permanent peace between two countries that want to be at peace. Both are victimized by the same terrorist organization, a terrorist organization that no doubt has victimized Israel, but has also victimized the people of Lebanon. The people of Lebanon deserve to live in a country that's peaceful and prosperous. They have an opportunity to do that. They have a history of that. And what's standing in the way is an organization that operates, a terrorist organization that operates within their national territory that threat needs to be eliminated. And so thank you, Mr. President, for this gathering today and for convening it and being a key part of it. And it buys us time to continue to work. I'm very optimistic that in a few weeks we'll be even closer to the kind of permanent peace that the people of Israel and Lebanon deserve.
Thank you very much. Michelle, please.
Well, I would like to thank the President, the Vice President, and Secretary to make this historical meeting today that bring two countries that they've never been next to each other more than today in a way. This is 60, 70 years in the making, and today is really the historical day. Thank you, Mr. President, Vice President, Secretary, and we're going to keep going, working for a peace that hopefully we'll get it as soon as possible.
Thank you. You're a very successful man. And when I asked him if he'd like to be ambassador to Lebanon, I said, could be a dangerous job. He said, well, I'm Lebanese. I was born in Lebanon, and your parents have a whole big history. He said, danger doesn't matter to me, really. It's something I want to do. He's very successful. He didn't need this. And I think it's probably more dangerous than you even thought, but you've done a fantastic job. So.
It is an honor for me to serve you, Mr. President, and then I'm going to go till the end.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And likewise, Mike Huckabee, we all know Mike, and he didn't need it either, did he? But he's doing a fantastic job. Mike, go ahead, please.
I just want to say, Mr. President, what an amazing opportunity to be here at a moment of history. The people of Lebanon, the people of Israel are neighbors, and they want to get along. They can get along. But it's like neighbors who have a rough little kid living in the neighborhood who keeps throwing rocks at everybody's window. And if the kid will quit throwing rocks, the neighbors can get along and start actually working together. The president has initiated something that is truly bringing the neighborhood back to a neighborhood and recognizing that the problem is not Lebanon, and the problem is not Israel. The problem is Hezbollah, the bad little kid throwing rocks. That's what the president is getting launched today, to get that little kid out of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Mr. Ambassador, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, for your hospitality, for bringing Israel and Lebanon together here in the Oval Office. Israel wants peace with Lebanon, and Israel wants security for its citizens. We're united with the Lebanese government in wanting to rid the country of this malign influence called Hezbollah. And now that, Mr. President, under your leadership, Iran has been so degraded, the possibility of degrading Hezbollah and liberating Lebanon from their occupation is real. So we hope that together under your leadership, we can formalize peace between Israel and Lebanon in the very near future. And we are just very thankful for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, and I look forward to having the next meeting with your great Prime Minister. He's a wartime Prime Minister. with Bibi and with the president of Lebanon. It'll be fantastic. I think lots going to happen. Madam Ambassador.
Of course. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, President Trump. Thank you for your leadership, for making sure to be presiding over this historic moment. I want to really say thank you to the United States under your leadership for all your effort to help and to support Lebanon. And I think with your help, with your support, we can make Lebanon great again. Thank you so much.
Good, thank you. I like that phrase.
Sounds nice.
That's a good phrase.
And that GA.
Thank you very much. I think we will. Any questions? Yeah, please.
President Trump, Anthony Mushtaq from MTV Lebanon.
Yes.
First, thank you for having us in the White House for the year and a half. This is historical for our audience as well. We would like to ask you 2-3 questions. First question, the peace between Lebanon and Israel. Do you think it will happen this year?
I think it has a great chance. I mean, you know, they're friends about the same things and they're enemies on the same things. And it has to do with, I guess you could say, a couple of countries, but certainly it's, if you look at Hezbollah, that's where everybody seems to be united against them. So they are both very united in that way. You know, I think there's a very good chance of having peace. I think it should be an easy one. Relative to some of the things we're working on, it should be an easy one. But it's been so many years because nobody focused on it. But Lebanon was a great country. It was a beautiful country, smart people, very brilliant people, doctors, professors, economists, some of the smartest people on the planet. But it got torn apart by different factions and nothing having to do with them, outside factors. So I think it can be brought back pretty quickly.
And when do you think our president will meet Netanyahu here at the White
I
House?
think we'll do it during this period of time, during the 3-week period, ideally. I mean, I'd like to suggest over the 3-week ceasefire. If you can do that. Well, we're here. We'll do it in the Oval Office.
And regarding Hezbollah, he's not responding to our government. He's doing whatever he wants. What do you say for Hezbollah?
Well, look, Israel has to, I mean, we're just talking about it. Israel is going to have to defend itself if they're shot at, and they will. I would never say that they can't. It would be nice if they wouldn't have to bother with that, but if something happens, they're going to have to defend themselves, as you know. But they're going to do it carefully, and they're going to be surgical as opposed to beyond surgical. And, you know, there's a lot they can do. But Israel is going to have to defend itself.
And regarding our Lebanese speaker, Nabil Berri reportedly told Prince Yazid bin Farhan that Lebanon will not move forward with peace unless Saudi Arabia is involved. What is your reaction to that statement? And do you believe Saudi Arabia must play a central role in a potential Lebanon-Israel peace process?
Well, Saudi Arabia is great, and they have a great leader. And I think that they'd be very happy with this. I haven't spoken to them, I will. This happened very quickly. But Saudi Arabia is going to be, they're great people, a great place, incredible place. I know it very well. But I know the leader very well, and he'd want to see something like this happen. He's a tremendous guy. Okay?
Sir, and make Lebanon great again. This is our slogan on MTV Lebanon. Make America great again. And make
About what?
Lebanon great again is our slogan on MTV Lebanon that all the Lebanese in our audience are putting hope on you, Mr. President.
Make Lebanon great
Make
again.
Lebanon great again.
It's a good slogan. It worked for here. I think it's maybe the greatest political slogan in the history of the world, make America great again. But, you know, we're great now, so I will never say that we won't use that slogan, MAGA. But we have another one, America is back. Where's that hat? Does anybody have it? No, yeah, that's the old one, and then show them the new one. And we're never changing MAGA. I don't have the courage to change MAGA. Make America great again. But, you know, we're great now. We're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're the most powerful country in the world by far. And we suffered years of abuse by people that were grossly incompetent, like Biden, like Obama. Obama was incompetent. He was a great divider. And we're a great country again. We're respected all over the world. That's why this happened so fast. I mean, it can happen fast. Thank you.
Sir, the funding that Hezbollah gets from Iran, Is Iran going to have to cut that off to do a deal with you?
Yeah, they'll have to cut that
That's a
off.
must for you.
Yeah, sure. That's a must, yeah.
Mr. President, apparently there was a special forces soldier who was involved in the capture of Venezuelan President Maduro, who was arrested by federal authorities today on suspicion of insider trading and betting on Polymarket. Are you concerned that federal employees are betting on these prediction markets and potentially getting rich?
Well, I don't know about it, but was he betting that they would get him or they wouldn't get him?
It sounds like he was betting on his removal from office, that Maduro would be removed.
Well, that's
it sounds like
interesting.
he was involved in the operation.
That's like Pete Rose betting on his own team. It's a little like Pete Rose. Pete Rose, they kept him out of the Hall of Fame because he bet on his own team. Now, if he bet against his team, that would be no good, but he bet on his own team. I'll look into it, yeah?
There are also bets that are being placed as well on the Iran conflict, too, and there have been some trackings where people suspect that there's insider trading happening on these prediction markets around the war. Are you concerned
Well, you know, the whole world, unfortunately, has become somewhat of a casino. And you look at what's going on all over the world, in Europe and every place they're doing these betting things. I was never much in favor of it. I don't like it conceptually, but it is what it is. No, I think that I'm not happy with any of that stuff, but they have all these different sites. They have predictive markets. It's a crazy world. It's a much different world than it was. Please.
We talked about the Fed's renovation. Can someone other than the Justice Department find out the things you said you wanted to learn?
Well, could. I mean, look, it's pretty easy. When you look with Jerome Too Late Powell, I have a real problem because he should have been lowering interest rates a long time ago. And despite that, we fought through it, and we have the greatest economy we've ever had. You take a look, I mean, I don't know what the market is today, but we've broken every record over the last few days. And this is during a military operation or a war, whatever you want to call it. It makes no difference as far as I'm concerned. But we have this unbelievable economy. The S&P has a new record. The Dow is right at a new record. We already broke the record with the Dow. People said it wouldn't happen in 4 years. They said in 4 years it won't be able to be possible to break 50,000, and we broke it with the Dow. And I'm actually a little bit surprised that we're breaking it constantly, even now, during this conflict. Because when we broke it, I called a lot of the people here. I called JD, I called Marco, I called Howard, I called Scott. I said, I hate to tell you, fellas, but we have to do a little bit of a detour. We have to go to Iran and make sure they don't have a nuclear weapon. We had just broken every financial record. And the amazing thing is we continue to break them even during the war. Now, fuel went up, but I thought it would have gone up much more. And a lot of ships are coming to the United States, and they're using the United States instead of the Hormuz Strait. Amazing things are happening. Our country is amazing. You know, we don't have an oil shortage. We drill, baby, drill. We are right now producing more oil than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. Did you know that? More, and in about a year from now, we'll be doing double the level. And Venezuela's been fantastic. We have a great relationship with that country and with the people that are running the country. And we're taking in millions of barrels of oil, millions and millions from Venezuela. It's been a great experience, to be honest with you, and they're doing a very good job, and they have our backing, okay?
Mr. President, you said that...
Can you just clarify again what exactly...
Here we go. Listen to this.
No.
Just clarify. Here we go. Here's his bomb.
What have the two sides agreed to here? 3 weeks ceasefire with the
3 weeks.
The leaders coming?
Yeah, 3 weeks. And the leaders will most likely be coming here during that time. And I think when they do, that's a very historic meeting. They haven't met for many, many years, as I understand it.
Never.
They've never met. Think of that. They're next to each other. They're great people, and they've never met. This should be an easy one. Okay? Good question. Thank you.
The Lebanese law, we can't communicate with Israel. What we can do about this law? Like, if we talk with Israel, it will be a crime for us as Lebanese. And this is a question on behalf of...
How is it a crime? How?
And the Lebanese law, it's a crime. They put you in
Well, I think we have to end that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something we're going to have to end. I'd never heard of that. But that's a good start. It's a crime to talk with Israel. Well, I'm pretty sure that that'll be ended very quickly, okay? I'll make sure of that. And I know Lebanon doesn't want that. We'll end up... Will you work on that, please, everybody? That's crazy.
The ship that was captured on Monday, you said there was a gift for the Iranians in it. What was that in that ship? The one from China?
Yeah, well, we have, that's very top secret. Yeah, there was stuff in there, but it's top secret. I'd like to let you know. That's a good question. That's one of those little questions where, oh, this is not good. No, it's, we have a lot of things that we got. You know, that the Strait, what we've done with the blockade is amazing, and nobody gets through. And nobody wants to get through. Nobody's trying. The one tried, they shut out the engine, but nobody's trying. We have complete control. Now, they can drop their mines in there and do all those stupid things. It's just going to take longer for them to make money because the mines are going to affect them much more than they're going to affect us. But and we don't know that they're doing that, but they could be that they're doing that. If they're doing it, it's a very foolish thing to do. Just like for Iran to shoot at Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar, and Kuwait, Bahrain, all the different places they shot. Nobody expected that. They thought they'd shoot at Israel, in all fairness, but you didn't expect they'd be shooting at numerous other countries. I think it was a big mistake. If they're putting mines down, it's a big mistake for them, I will say.
Are you angry at China for what they sent Iran?
No.
So there's some reporting today.
No. I guess we do the same thing, don't we? With other countries. You know, it's like one of those things, but nothing that it wasn't earth-shaking. Yeah.
There's some reporting today, sir, that you intend to invite Vladimir Putin to the G20 in Miami. Is that the case?
No, but if he came, it would be probably very helpful. You know, I've said a long time ago, when they made the G8, the G7, they threw Russia out before my time. That was Obama and a certain prime minister from a place called Canada, Trudeau. And I said, that's a stupid thing to do. And I was right. You know, I'd go to these meetings of the G7, and about 90% of the meeting was talking about Russia and what's going on with Russia. And I said, why'd you throw them out? You know, if they didn't throw them out, they would have been much better off, in my opinion. You know, it should have been the G8. But when they threw out President Putin, he was very offended by that. He was, you know, rightfully, but he was very offended by that. I venture to say you probably wouldn't be having these problems if you didn't throw him out. Okay?
So he's not coming to the G20, as far as
Not that I know of, but...
Because there are senior administration officials being quoted in news reports this afternoon that says the Russians are being invited to at least ministerial...
Well, you're saying being invited as opposed to coming. I don't know of the invitation, but if he were invited, I don't know.
Would you like to
Hey, I'm of the opinion that you talk to everybody. I'm not one of these guys who say, oh, let's not talk to him. You know, there's a war going on, let's not talk to him. I like talking to everybody. If you're a smart person, if you have control over your emotions and all the other things you need control of, I'm somebody that believes in talking. I don't know of that. I don't know that he's coming. I doubt he'd come, to be honest with you. I sort of doubt he'd come. But we're working on trying to get that one solved. That would be number 9. I've ended 8 wars. And that one is, but they continue to fight. The hatred between him and President Zelensky is extraordinary, I can tell you.
Could I ask you a FIFA question, sir? What do you think of this idea of replacing Iran with Italy in the World Cup?
I don't think about it too much.
Okay.
That's an interesting question. Let me give it, you know what? Let me give that a little thought. Is that what they're doing? They're thinking about replacing him?
Apparently it's a proposal.
Let Marco make his poly.
Marco, could you make a statement on that, please? What do you think of?
There's nothing from the U.S. has told them they can't come. I mean, the problem with Iran, it would be not their athletes. It would be some of the other people that we want to bring with them, some of whom have ties to the IRGC. We may not be able to let them in, but not the athletes themselves. But I don't know where that's coming from, other than speculation that Iran may decide not to come, and then Italy would fill their spot. But if they decide not to come on their own, it's because they decided not to come. What they can't bring is a bunch of IRGC terrorists into our country and pretend that they're, journalists and athletic trainers.
Sir, is the government going
We would not want to affect the athletes. Yeah.
Is the government going to buy a stake in Spirit Airlines?
So Spirit is an airline that's had some trouble. They were going to merge with People Express, or one of them, a number of years ago, and Barack Hussein Obama decided it was a bad idea. How did that work out? It's bad for both of them. That would have been a natural merger. Not United and American, but Spirit and the other. We're looking at helping them. We have 18,000 people that live in this country that are great people and great employees, and we're thinking about doing it, helping them out, and meaning bailing them out or buying it. I think we just buy it. We'd be getting it virtually debt-free. They have some good aircraft, they have good assets, and when the price of oil goes down, we'll sell it for a profit. I'd love to be able to save those jobs. I'd love to be able to save an airline. I like having a lot of airlines, so it's competitive. So we are looking at Spirit. It's in a bankruptcy. It's in bankruptcy court, and we're looking if we could get it for the right price. I'd do it to save the jobs, and we have somebody that wants to run it, do a good job, smart person. And if they run it properly, and if prices come down, all of a sudden it's a valuable asset.
Mr. President,
And they have some very good slots too, which are pretty valuable.
You will visit Lebanon and visit Ambassador Isa to the embassy because we're building a huge U.S. embassy in Lebanon. Are you going to plan to launch it or open or attend it for the opening?
You want to answer that?
Well, we're working on it. It's not done yet, but once it's done, I will ask the president to come and cut the ribbon.
We'd love to have you, Mr.
I
President.
have no objection to that. Go ahead, please.
In the UK today, they've just announced a total of $1.3 billion in return from digital service tax, which you in the past have called it an unfair tax on American companies. You know it very well. You previously called for investigations, but so far as we can tell, there has been none. Would you call
So what tax is this?
a digital service tax? It's the kind of nicknamed a tech tax or big tech tax that kind of.
You mean they're going to put a tax on basically American companies?
It's already there, sir.
Did you say the UK?
Yes, sir. They made $1.3 billion last year. So is that something you would kind of investigate, call for it to be scrapped, have a look at?
We don't like it when they target American companies, because basically you're talking about our great American companies. And whether we like those companies or don't like them, they're American companies. They're the top companies in the world. And we've been looking at it. UK did it, a couple of other people did it. They think they're going to make an easy buck. That's why they've all taken advantage of our country. They don't take advantage of it. No, we've been looking at it, and we can meet that very easily by just putting a big tariff on the UK, so they better be careful. If they don't drop the tax, we'll probably put a big tariff on the UK.
Or if they expect 5%, 10%, something similar.
Whatever, I mean, more than what they're getting. They shouldn't be doing that. All that's doing is really targeting great companies, but they're our companies. It's like us targeting their companies, which we could do very easily. But you don't have big companies like that. You don't have those great companies. Not fair. I have an obligation to protect our companies. That's how they became great. And they become great during my administration. My first 4 years, we had the best economy in history in my first 4 years. And this will blow it away. Look at it. During a war, we have the highest stock market. During a war, it's not a big war for us, but it's a war. And during a war, we have the highest stock market. I have to protect this country. So if they want to do the service tax, France did it also, and some others. And literally, I have a meeting after this having to do with that exact question. And what we'll do is we'll reciprocate by putting something on that's equal or greater than what they're doing. And they won't be happy about that. No, that's enough. You've asked so many questions.
Mr. President, I emailed the Virginia Department of Elections earlier today and asked them if they had seen any evidence of election tampering, of fraudulent mail ballots being cast in the Tuesday election, or if there was any evidence of non-citizens voting in that election. Why did you say that that election was rigged?
Well, you have mail-in ballots, and they found a lot of them at the end of the day, all of a sudden.
They said that they have received no credible information related
Well,
to this.
I know, you'd say that no matter what. You know, you've been saying that for years, and now they're finding out that the 2020 election was totally rigged. And when you look at what just, excuse me, how do you defend what just happened where your Southern law, whatever it is, has given money to KKK? They're supposed to protect people, and they're paying all these people, crooked as can be, millions of dollars going all to all these people that they're supposed to be protecting from, but they're actually supporting them. because they want to have companies that they can protect and because they want to rig elections. That was all a rigged election. All of the things with Charlottesville, all of the stuff that they did. And you won't bring that up, but you'll bring up some nonsense. Let me tell you, the election, we were winning all day long. It's a totally horrible situation. Hopefully the courts will overturn it, what they did in Virginia. You have a grossly incompetent governor. You had a very good governor. He did a good job. You know, all those companies that want to move into Virginia now, they want to move out and go to a different location. So that's my opinion. I believe it was a rigged election. Virginia's known for it. It was a rigged election. They had a lot of ballots, mail-in ballots. Anytime you have mail-in ballots, you have cheating. Did you have something?
Yes, you said that the U.S. will work with Lebanon to protect itself from Hezbollah. What does that look like exactly?
What is that?
You said that the U.S. will work with Lebanon to protect itself from...
Well, we're just going to work with them. I mean, we have a good relationship with Lebanon. It's amazing that, you know, it's the amazing thing is they actually have sort of a good relationship with Israel and they don't deal with each other, but now they're going to deal with each other. We're putting them together.
What's the material support that you intend to...
We're going to help. We're just going to help them. We're going to help them. They're great people. It can be a really good country again, maybe a great country again. And I think you have all the ingredients. So we're going to work together. And I think Israel's going to be terrific. But they do have a common problem. It's Hezbollah. Okay, a couple of more.
Some House Republicans are saying that they don't want to vote for a bill that just has the Homeland Security funding. Would you support them expanding that to include other tax and defense measures?
Well, I'd love to see one thing. You know what that is? Save America. I'd love to say the Save America Act, which is voter ID, which is proof of citizenship, which is, by the way, no mail-in voting, which is a fraud. Anytime you have mail-in voting, you're going to have a fraudulent election. But I'd leave it for military, you know, mail-in voting for military, for people that are sick, for people that are traveling, like business or whatever, different things. But disability, where they have a problem. But no mail-in ballots. We added a couple of things. No men playing in women's sports. It's unrelated, but it's a popular thing. And no transgender mutilization of our children. So that's it. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, President. Thank you, Press. 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 This way, guys. Thank you, Press. Thank you, Press. This way. Thank you, guys.
So that was a news conference ostensibly about the ceasefire in Lebanon being extended by 3 weeks, but it went via questions on insider trading, about support for a US airline. It went via questions about Putin heading to the G20 in December in Miami, and also about the UK digital services tax, in which he threatened tariffs. But substantially, it was about a 3-week extension, the suggestion that the Lebanese president could meet Netanyahu during a 3-week period. This is decades in the making, we heard from the Lebanese ambassador there. Let's bring in James Matthews then. You know, all sorts of lines in that, James. Pick out your headlines.
Yeah, well, clearly the 3-week ceasefire is the one, isn't it, Anna? It's clear why this was going to happen at the State Department, and it was shifted across town to the White House. They had an announcement to make not long after the arrival of the two protagonists. But yeah, 3-week ceasefire. Trump hailed it as a great chance for peace between Israel and Lebanon. Said he reckoned that could happen this year. Spoke about a meeting between Lebanon's president and Netanyahu, said that could take place during the 3-week ceasefire period. And we heard there that the two men had never met. This matters. It matters that things go well between these two countries. It matters to all parties inside that building. And the Americans, you know, they have said that hostilities between Israel and Lebanon are separate from its war with Iran, but the two actually are hardwired together. Iran certainly sees peace in Lebanon as a key part of negotiations with the United States. And it also sees the situation in Lebanon as a test of influence, the influence that the US has over Israel and vice versa. That's key in terms of negotiations with Tehran moving forward. Trump, I think he will be looking for Netanyahu to demonstrate a good faith going forward, given that Trump has caught a cold with this joint venture on Iran. He'll be looking for a commitment to a peace that can bag Trump a peace deal with Iran, ultimately build confidence in those negotiations, although, you know, that may yet be a stretch. We'll see, time will tell. Interesting on Putin, the Washington Post is reporting that Vladimir Putin is going to be invited to Trump's golf club in December for the G20. He didn't rule that out, didn't he? Putin hasn't yet committed to it, but it sounded to me like that was part of Trump's planning. Spoke about a threat to tariff the UK even more if there was any problem on big tech tax. He was asked a question about that. And on the World Cup, Italy replacing Iran, he didn't commit, Anna.
As I said, lots in it. James, thank you very much indeed for that. Yes, in his Truth Social post, Donald Trump suggested the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. But when asked specifically about what material support that meant from America, we're just going to help them, he said. They are great people. Lots from both of you coming up in the next hour. We'll discuss that further. Back in a moment.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news.
Being a Sky News presenter.
I began by asking,
thank you so much,
trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story? I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back.
Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
Tonight on The Wrap, Donald Trump declares the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah, Lebanon rather, has been extended by 3 weeks following fresh talks between the two sides in Washington. The UK agrees to pay France more than £500 million to take tougher action on migrant crossings, but opposition parties say it's just a waste of money. We report from northern France on whether today's deal can really make a difference.
The summer months which are coming are when, of course, the winds are calmer and the sea is less rough. And so the next few months will provide an immediate test for this new deal.
The Prime Minister refuses to deny rumours of a cabinet rift over his conduct in the Mandelson vetting scandal. Plus,
I couldn't tell you what was going through my mind at that time. Natural instinct just took over for me to go and help him.
we talked to the man hailed a hero for helping a stricken runner cross the line at the Boston Marathon. We're discussing the day's biggest stories with the Labour peer and broadcaster, Baroness Hazarika, and the former Conservative Cabinet Minister, Justine Greening. Plus, a first look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers later this hour. Well, hello, very good evening to you. Aisha, Justine, welcome to both of you as well. So we start with breaking news then. Donald Trump has just announced that Israel and Lebanon have agreed to extend a ceasefire by 3 weeks. Mr. Trump seemed confident that total peace could be achieved by the end of the year. He's just been speaking after a meeting at the Oval Office.
They've agreed to an additional 3 weeks of, no firing, ceasefire. No more firing. Let's see. We hope that happens. It's not going to happen between them, but they do have Hezbollah to think about. And we're going to be working with Lebanon to get things straightened out in that country. I really believe it's something we can do pretty easily.
And the peace between Lebanon and Israel, do you think it will happen this year?
I think it has a great chance. I mean, you know, they're friends about the same things and they're enemies on the same things. And it has to do with, I guess you could say, a couple of countries, but certainly it's, if you look at Hezbollah, that's where everybody seems to be united against them. So they are both very united in that way. You know, I think there's a very good chance of having peace.
Yes, it was a 10-day ceasefire agreed. It's been extended by 3 weeks now. I suppose one of the critical lines, the United States is going to work with Lebanon in order to help it protect itself from Hezbollah. But when asked specifically how it was going to do that, he just said, well, we're just going to help them. You know, the question specifically was, what material support will you give? But certainly J.D. Vance suggested both Israel and Lebanon are victimised by the same terrorist organisation.
Indeed, and only today we saw a Lebanese journalist killed in this so-called 10-day ceasefire. It's welcome, it's obviously been extended, but I think it underlines just how complex this whole conflict is. It's more than just Iran, it's about this proxy for Iran, Hezbollah with their base in Lebanon. But when you look at those objectives that the president has, you know, it was around nuclear capability in Iran, it was around regime change, it's Straits of Hormuz, it's around Hezbollah. There's a long list of things that he wants to work through, and it's hard to see how he will succeed in finding a resolution to all of those capabilities. And certainly the issue of Hezbollah within Lebanon is just a long-running historic one, and I think it will take a lot to reverse a situation that has been on the ground for many, many, many years.
Well, indeed, how do you undermine an ideology which began in 1982 in response to Israel's invasion of Lebanon, when Israel is still in southern Lebanon?
Absolutely. And I think what's really interesting is, as you said just there, you know, when he was asked, well, exactly what are you going to do? He just saw these platitudes, you're going to help them, they're wonderful, they're great people, we're going to make Lebanon great again. You know, it's just all these kind of mad slogans and no actual detail. But, you know, I agree with everything that's been said. The difficulty is that Hezbollah is no friend of the ordinary Lebanese citizen, but Hezbollah is also deeply, deeply entrenched into the culture and the fabric of life in Lebanon. And when you have been oppressed like that, you do often turn to sort of malign forces. You could argue the same about Hamas in Palestine as well. So absolutely, you know, Hamas and Hezbollah are no friends, I would say, of the kind of ordinary people, and many ordinary people want them out as well. But as you say, it's very, very difficult to defeat a very entrenched ideology and culture. It will take more than 3 weeks and platitudes.
Yes, and Hezbollah concentrated in the very areas that Israel has been bombing. Southern Lebanon, we know, the eastern Bekaa Valley, and in the southern suburbs of Beirut, which have been hammered. You know, it's a highly dense population zone, is it not? The last time, though, that there were high-level meetings like this is 1993. There have been 2 in just over a week now. I mean, this is really significant. This is, you know, decades-old animosity between these nations.
Yes, and I think one of the challenges has been the political fragility of Lebanon and the fact that for long periods it has had a coalition government that simply hasn't functioned. And, you know, these are some of the challenges, you know, that we were working through, trying to support Lebanon's refugee population that it was hosting. And so I think it is a huge step forward to get these 2 countries and representatives meeting one another. I think, as Aisha said, the big question is to what extent can they actually make progress on the ground, and what will that US support actually take the form of in practice?
And also, you know, I think for people in North Israel, it's very distressing because Hezbollah keeps sending bombs over to them as well. So they're obviously feeling incredibly, and they want to defend their people as well. And it's all very well to have these discussions, but what's Hezbollah going to do in all of this?
Yes, and that's, you know, why they want that buffer zone as well. There was so much more that came out of that Trump news conference in the Oval Office, surrounded by those people who'd been involved in those talks, not least that would President Putin be invited to the G20 Leaders Summit in Miami, to which Mr. Trump said, well, I don't know, but it might be helpful if he came. Also, he took aim at the UK in that news conference as well. In recent months, the president has been vocal, as you know, of his criticism of Sir Keir Starmer's government. Tonight, he threatened to impose an additional tariff on the UK if Westminster does not drop its digital service tax, which significantly impacts US tech giants.
We don't like it when they target American companies, because basically you're talking about our great American companies. And whether we like those companies or don't like them, they're American companies, and they're the top companies in the world. And we've been looking at it. UK did it, a couple of other people did it. They think they're going to make an easy buck. That's why they've all taken advantage of our country. They don't take advantage of it. No, we've been looking at it, and we can meet that very easily by just putting a big tariff on the UK, so they better be careful. If they don't drop the tax, we'll probably put a big tariff on the UK.
Yes, the suggestion is it is a 2% tax on revenues of large multinational tech companies which get value, you know, money from UK users. I mean, you know, threats of tariffs makes everybody sit and watch nervously, doesn't it?
Another problem for Keir Starmer to have to fix, and another indicator of how difficult it is to get any deals done with the States that actually can sustain over time in a way that businesses can actually rely on.
Yeah. King going next week, obviously.
Oh, honestly, I mean, you very rarely feel sorry for the King, but my goodness, you know, I do not envy him having to spend time. But look, why is it that he is saying, yeah, just, you know, roll over Britain, just allow our tech companies to come in, you know, fill their boots and not have to pay any tax on it? So I think we are right to ask for some revenue. A lot of these tech giants are coming in. They might be doing great business for them, but they're having quite, I think, a negative effect on our society, actually. So I think it's right that we're asking these tech giants to pay a very small amount of their revenue. And if this is how we're getting treated by our so-called closest ally, well, I'm afraid it makes it all the more important that we get closer to other allies, other middle-ranking countries like Canada and, of course, Europe.
OK. Lots more still in that, including about insider dealing, the betting market, about support for a US airline as well that the White House wants to provide cash to. But the substantive part of that was a 3-week extension in that ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, and the promise to help Lebanon deal with Hezbollah in its own country. Now, the Home Secretary has agreed to give France more than £500 million to do more to stop migrants crossing the Channel in small boats. As part of the three-year agreement, riot-trained police will be sent to beaches in France. It will also include the building of a new immigration removal centre with more than 200 officers based in Dunkirk, focusing on returning migrants to their home countries or other EU countries that they've passed through. Well, the government says the deal will be a game changer, but opposition parties say it's just more good money after bad. Let's hear then from our Europe correspondent, Alistair Bunkle from Dunkirk.
We don't have any food, anything. We just try to get food there. So it's difficult. UK have more options for immigrants, that's why.
That was Hassan, an Eritrean hoping to make it from this beach across to the UK within the next month or two. But the British government today has signed a new deal to try and prevent people like Hassan from making that journey.
A big chunk of the new money that we have promised is in a flexible fund, where I've been very clear we will fund only the things that we believe are going to work in order to disrupt and drive down the number of boat crossings. So the totality of this package is a huge improvement on what's gone before. It's a landmark deal and I'm very pleased to be able to sign it today.
The deal is worth £662 million over 3 years. That money will go to providing 50 more riot police to patrol the beaches and new surveillance and drone technology to monitor the coastline. But it comes with a condition. £100 million of it could be withdrawn after a year if the British government doesn't think that the French are making enough progress.
People will still make the journey, you think?
Of course, they try, but it will be more difficult when we compare to the past days.
This is one of the main camps. We're about, a mile or two inland, and you can kind of see the infrastructure. There's lots of portaloos here. The people in yellow high-vis jackets are charities here to hand out food. Some of those orange life vests waiting for the next moment when the winds die down and people can try and make that crossing. And when they do, they'll go from here, they'll walk towards the beaches in the middle of the night, under darkness, and then try and cross into the UK.
These deterrence policies are just putting more people at risk and increasing the risk, and we're leaving people into the hands of everything that can happen at the border, which is smuggling, trafficking. It's not actually decreasing the crossings.
Interesting, talking to some of the charities here, they just don't think that these policies work or will work because they say that most people here have an option. One is to remain in their home countries where they face the risk of torture or imprisonment or death. The other alternative is to come here where, yeah, sure, they face the risk of French riot police, treatment by smugglers, and of course the real risks of trying to cross the English Channel. But by comparison, the risks they face here aren't as bad as the risks they face back home. And so that is why people, in their opinion, will still keep coming to northern France to try and make that trip across to the UK.
Somalia to Yemen, dangerous. Yemen to Sudan, dangerous. Libya to Araba, dangerous. Here on UK, dangerous.
So far this year, around 6,000 migrants have made it across the Channel to the UK. That's actually 36% fewer than this time last year. But the summer months which are coming are when, of course, the winds are calmer and the sea is less rough. And so the next few months will provide an immediate test for this new deal.
Well, the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, had this to say about whether the government's plan will work.
Only about a third of the people trying to leave France are being stopped. It's costing us billions. It's not worth the money. The only thing that's going to work is us leaving the ECHR and then making sure that we have a borders plan and a deterrent. Labour scrapped the deterrence. That was the Rwanda plan. And that's why their immigration policy is failing.
So, Aisha, there you heard Kemi Badenoch. Only a third of people trying to leave France are actually being stopped. You can throw another 660 million the French way. You can have drones and helicopters in the sky. This is not a strategy that will stop the small boats coming across the Channel.
honestly, if I were the Conservative Party, I would like to sit this one out on immigration. I really, really would, you know, from the sort of the idea that they're still trumpeting this ludicrous Rwanda scheme. We didn't get a single, you know, I think the only people that went were like on a voluntary basis. You know, Boris Johnson created the sort of what's known as the Boris wave in terms of legal migration. So honestly, if I were them, I'd really sit this out. Now, that is not to say that this is not a really, really big issue, and it's a very serious issue, and there's some very disturbing stories about people that came over in small boats raping women here. So these are very, very serious issues, but there isn't a kind of easy way to stop this. You know, I think most people do want to see these small boats crossings massively reduced. They're dangerous. It's not the right way to come into this country. They're quite unfair in terms of the people who do manage to come over here. But honestly, like, there's many things the Conservatives, you know, didn't do brilliantly. Immigration is really high on that list.
OK, so nothing works is what the Conservatives and Reform both think. The only way to do it is to leave the European Convention on Human Rights alongside Russia and Belarus, who are not in it. Is there no way to properly deport people who come into this country illegally? That it's stuck in with lawyers earning large amounts of money as people fake the reasons why they've come into this country and are stuck in appeal. So is there anything, in your view, that would work more efficiently than paying French police to try to stop people on beaches?
Well, we used to have, or be part of the Dublin Convention when we were in the EU.
Well, you can't go back to 2016.
No,
I mean,
I'm not trying to, but I'm trying to explain that the reason this has become more of a problem now isn't just the numbers, it's the fact that up until that point, we were automatically able to effectively push people back to the country, the safe country that they come from before. And of course, if they're coming across the channel, that is obviously France. So there used to be that. And actually, you know, I talked about in the previous hour, Germany and Denmark. One of the reasons they're able to return more people is they're using the Dublin Convention themselves. They're also returning people to the Balkans. They also have more agreements with other countries, third-party countries, to return asylum seekers there. In the case of Germany, where people don't have papers, they're doing language analysis, which of course can tell them broadly where someone is likely to have grown up and come from. So these are countries that are finding different ways to get over some of the problems that we seem unable to get over, which is the fact that many people turn up and say, I don't have any papers, and then won't cooperate. In the case of Denmark, when people don't cooperate, they progressively get less support when it's clear that they're not interested in returning home and not interested in cooperating in relation to
Shabana Mahmood has obviously
asylum
looked at Denmark,
claim.
hasn't she, and has actually taken some ideas from there. But you mentioned a rape case. There's elements like this that harden people's opinions on this. These concerns, certainly about small boat crossings, thrown into further focus by that court case today, in which 3 men who crossed the Channel in small boats were convicted over the rape of a woman in Brighton. Makes the front page of The Sun, as you can see here. Well, 25-year-old Egyptian national Ibrahim Al-Sheikh was convicted of rape. He had met his co-defendant, Iranian Abdullah Ahmadi, on a small boat from France in June of last year. He too was convicted of rape today. Well, the men were friends with Egyptian Karen Al-Danasurt, who also crossed the Channel in a small boat and was today found guilty of rape as a secondary party by encouraging and filming the attack. Prosecutors said in court that he had been convicted in his absence of murder in Egypt. As I said, that makes the front page of The Sun. Migrant rapist was on the run for murder. The point is that in polling, nearly 50% of people put this as their number one, and we're 2 weeks from big elections in this country, and the public looks and just sees inactivity about this.
Well, look, I think a lot of the public are very, very concerned about illegal immigration. Certainly when I've been out door knocking, I'd say the number one issue is cost of living. Number 2 is things like the health service. Number 3 is immigration. They're the things that sort of come up on the doorstep. But when you talk to people, most people are smart enough to have a slightly more nuanced view than just saying all immigration is bad. A lot of people understand that there's a difference between legal migration and illegal migration. Most people don't like the small boats crossings for the reasons that we've rehearsed, but they also understand that this country's also benefited a lot from immigration. They understand in sectors like the care sector, in things like the NHS as well, that, you know, immigrants, I think of my own parents, you know, come over and made a really good contribution to this country. And also, legal migration is coming down. There may come a point soon when net legal migration is at 0. And we are also desperately needing skills in certain areas as well. So I think when we're talking about migration, we shouldn't shy away from these difficult conversations about culture, about the safety of women, about, you know, people sort of breaking the rules. But we should also have a nuanced conversation about the good that immigration does bring, the benefits to our economy, to our society as well, and have a slightly more kind of rounded conversation.
Well, certainly it's the focus of the British government today, but it comes with Keir Starmer still fighting fires over the Mandelson vetting issue. The Prime Minister today spoke about it and did not deny reports of a cabinet split over the issue. Some ministers reportedly accusing him of creating a divide between Number 10 and the civil service. Well, this is how Sir Keir Starmer responded to that.
The Cabinet is working really hard on a huge amount of issues on what we're delivering at the moment. We're preparing for the King's speech and all the further measures that we're going to need to take the country forward. And of course, the issue we discuss at Cabinet a lot in recent weeks is the war on two fronts, the ongoing war in Ukraine and the developing situation in Iran. What we discuss at Cabinet is the international aspect of that, but also the domestic impact in relation to that and the measures that we need to take to ensure that we're assessing the risks and making sure we're protecting people in this country from those impacts.
Well, he didn't. The question was put to him whether he was sure the Cabinet was fully behind him, and just, well, he doesn't answer. I mean, Sir Lindsay Hoyle can say he doesn't answer, but there we are, he didn't answer that either.
No, 2 weeks out from the local elections, and the Mandelson affair is just the gift that keeps on giving if you're an opposition party. It is absolutely energy-sapping, I've no doubt, for Labour MPs and activists on the doorstep. And tonight, more stories on front pages around the National Crime Agency, apparently looking at the Mandelson affair sometime in the past. I think that's on the front page, potentially, of the FT. And so it's just more and more things keep getting thrown up about this. There'll be fresh papers that come out after the local elections. It really does feel like an absolute disaster for Keir Starmer. He must have wished he'd never met or appointed Peter Mandelson. And the Foreign Affairs Select Committee continues to delve. Today, Cat Little, next week, Morgan McSweeney and more. Come on then, Labour peer, what's the mood music doing them?
Well, I'm not going to, you know, spin you a lie and just say that it's all rosy. Of course it isn't. Labour MPs are absolutely devastated by this. They're absolutely furious. Labour, you know, female MPs are absolutely devastated because of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking and the fact that Peter Mandelson was brought in at such a high level. And we've got local elections, and it's not just Labour MPs. You know, there are councillors fighting for their political lives. There's members of the Scottish Parliament and the Welsh Senedd as well. So this couldn't have come at a worse time. But I think the Prime Minister, he is where he is now. Personally, I think he shouldn't have sacked Ollie Robbins over this. I think this whole process was unsatisfactory. The original sin was appointing Peter Mandelson, for which he's apologised. And since then, it's just more terrible things. And as Justine said, more stuff will come out as well. The Prime Minister has rightly apologised for the appointment. I think it was a mistake for him to get rid of Ollie Robbins. And I think if he hadn't done, we wouldn't still be talking about this, I think, today. And the Foreign Affairs Select Committee would not have had to bring people in next Tuesday, which is the last day of recess before there's that break for those May elections. There's not only going to be Morgan McSweeney, but Sir Philip Barton, who was the former boss to Ollie Robbins. And, of course, everyone's going to be wanting to hear from him whether Number 10 did exert undue pressure on them. But, look, there's a lot of he said, she said, and a lot of kind of process and legalese. But I think this does go to the sort of character, kind of competence and culture around these kinds of appointments. And Justine is right. I think something that will haunt Keir Starmer for the rest of his life will be appointing Peter Mandelson. But he's got to find a way of trying to draw a line under this and move on. It will be very difficult because more stories will come out. But it's a real mess. And my other real concern about this is the government, if it wants to achieve anything, has to have a good relationship with civil servants. Civil servants are the mechanism by which ministers deliver and execute policy. And good government is a combination, it's a partnership between good ministers and good civil servants. I was a civil servant before I was a political advisor, now a member of the House of Lords. That relationship is crucial, and we all need for that relationship to be repaired.
That is a very good point, but I would also point out that we've just sat and listened to Donald Trump asking all sorts of questions, and he answered them. This is a Prime Minister who does not answer the question.
I'm really sorry. I'm totally coming back at you on that. He was asked specifically, how are you going to work with Lebanon? He said, we're just going to make Lebanon great again. Please don't praise Donald Trump for being this absolutely brilliant
and I did flag that a bit too, to be fair.
OK,
but at least he sits in open session, answers questions.
But he's also, it's like listening to a deranged pigeon talking, right? So let's not kid ourselves that he's just an amazing bastion of integrity, please.
I wish I hadn't said anything. Lots more still to come. We'll take a look at the front pages back in a moment.
The thing is, I'm gonna.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... My darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
People are directly protesting. The whole neighborhood is rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan.
I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty. War isn't pretty.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news.
Being a Sky News presenter.
I began by asking...
Thank you so much.
...trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
hasty juggle of the papers, because it's time to look at them now. Let's check out the front pages, shall we, before we talk to Aisha and Justine. So the Eye leads with President Donald Trump issuing the US Navy a shoot-and-kill order against any Iranian boat laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz. The Guardian focuses on the Foreign Office unit tracking potential breaches of international law by Israel in Gaza and Lebanon, which has been closed. And The Sun leads with the man convicted of rape in Brighton who came to the UK by crossing the Channel to escape a murder conviction in Egypt. The Metro has spoken to a man who heckled the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, for her immigration policies during a live podcast recording on Monday, where she responded by swearing at him and incorrectly calling him white. The Daily Mail leads on Nigel Farage vowing to wage war on benefits, culture in the UK, saying a massive change is needed. The Mirror leads with the man who's been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 23 years for rape and intentionally transmitting HIV to younger, vulnerable men. The front page of the Financial Times features an accusation from the White House that China is stealing American artificial intellectual property. A similar story is on the front of the Times with the headline, "Call to stop sharing data with China after breach." The Telegraph leads on the Ministry of Defence's accusation that Lord Hermer charged an excessive fee to investigate war crimes by British troops. The Express has spoken to Dame Esther Ranson about the assisted dying bill, as she has called on readers to make their voices heard in the debate. And the Star leads with Sarah Cox being chosen to replace Scott Mills on Radio 2's Breakfast Show in what she's been described as being her dream job. So let us talk more about some of those newspapers with Aisha Hazarika and Justine Greening. And let's start with The Times. And this is after hundreds of thousands of volunteers who'd given their DNA and healthcare records to what's called the UK Biobank, learnt that that information had been shared beyond where it should have been.
Yeah, I think this is a really troubling story. Biobank, my understanding, is a sort of kind of charity, medical charity initiative that actually started up back in the day under Tony Blair, where large numbers of people volunteered to give medical information and DNA and samples to try and track different illnesses and diseases and to try and help get medical breakthroughs. So the kind of ethos of it was a good and a noble one. But of course, what it has turned into is a treasure trove of data and personal information and very sensitive medical information. And it now turns out that there has been a number of serious breaches and that lots of individuals' DNA and healthcare records have been put up for sale on this Chinese website, which I think is called Alibaba. And it's something which is very serious. Dame Chi Onwara, who's the chair of the Science Select Committee, has said that this scandal shows that there's got to be much more done in terms of safeguards on public data, and that this is a big blow to trust, because we're trying to do much more digitisation of the NHS, we're trying to innovate more in the NHS, but people do have real concerns about data.
Yes, I mean, Alibaba's this massive e-commerce site, isn't it? And the suggestion is it was found on 3 separate listings on Alibaba, although they do say that Biobank, this database of medical records, as you suggested, has been behind a series of breakthroughs in recent years. So potentially a good idea, but everyone is sitting there thinking they want to digitise the NHS, you know, should think again. You know, what's the countenance to this? How do you protect people's data, even though this was anonymised data?
I actually find this story quite shocking and it's so frustrating as well, because the NHS is on the cusp of, I think, being able to make some huge improvements in patient care through data sharing, interoperability between different systems, increased home care that can now happen through digitisation. You know, people literally being able to get chemotherapy treatment at home so they can keep working. So if it's a child, they can stay in education. They don't have to do those really difficult journeys to the hospital at a time when they feel absolutely terrible. And it's on the back of having an approach on digitisation that is secure. And I think it's such a shame that an incident like this really, as I said, undermines trust at the very time when actually we need to have confidence for people to be able to have their data shared. You know, I'm part of the Our Future Health programme that, you know, there's several million people signed up to that. I absolutely think this is essential for the NHS, for us to be able to really start to understand how to deliver better care and disease profiles. And this just feels like it lets down everybody that is willing to put their trust into sharing their personal data for the common good. And I hope it gets investigated. I hope lessons can be learnt. And I hope it actually doesn't put people off fundamentally doing the right thing in the future, which is to run towards being part of these solutions. Because I do think, actually, notwithstanding this story and how frustrating it is, I think there are absolutely solutions to how to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, and let's just remind ourselves of the headline. They're called to stop sharing data with China after the breach. That's a separate big issue, isn't it?
It was shared with 3 Chinese research institutions, so it feels like this is a specific issue that actually can be mitigated and dealt with as a risk.
But there'll be a lot of people who just worried about if there's concerns about the NHS becoming privatised, and one of the reasons people have that anxiety is that they are worried about their own private information being sold for commercial purposes.
Yeah. Let's go to the Gulf, shall we? Tonight, as we know, Donald Trump has announced a 3-week extension to the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon. In the meantime, though, if we take a look at the I newspaper, the rhetoric only ratchets up between America and Iran, Aisha.
Yes, well, I mean, Trump has now ordered the US Navy in the Gulf to do a kind of shoot and kill policy. I mean, this is also at the same time as Israel's defence minister has threatened to return Iran to the dark and stone ages. In the meantime, as well, Iran is saying that they are going to be laying more mines in the Strait of Hormuz. So it doesn't feel, looking at it objectively, that we are moving any further forward in terms of coming to what we all want, which is an end to this war and the safe passage of vessels through the Straits of Hormuz.
Yes, and this was part of what sounded like his frustration after Iran released pictures of their own military boarding 2 oil tankers yesterday. You know, heavily produced video, certainly. 3 vessels fired upon, 2 of them boarded. This was the video I'm talking about, and this absolutely aggrieves the president, doesn't it? So he fights back, having seen images like this. And in fact, they also then boarded a vessel that's supposed to have had Iranian oil on in the Indian Ocean. But, Justine?
And there's this word ceasefire, which is there to suggest that hostilities have ceased. These images, as the front page of the Eye very clearly sets out, both for the US, for Iran and for Israel, hostilities are continuing. So it's probably the most limited definition of a ceasefire that you could possibly have. It's one element of this war, which is the original bombs that were being shot into and between Iran and other Gulf states. So it doesn't really feel like a ceasefire when you read the papers today. In fact, it feels like a further shift into perhaps a new phase of this conflict that's just different from the opening phase, but it's certainly not a ceasefire.
In the meantime, who calls out Israel, for example? Now, The Guardian reports that the Foreign Office unit that was tracking potential breaches of international law by Israel in Gaza and, more recently, Lebanon has been closed because of cuts within the department. Below that, on the front page of The Guardian, is the funeral for yet another journalist who was killed. This is Amal Khalil, who died in an attack yesterday, her body found under the rubble. And there are, more than 260 journalists who've been killed? The suggestion is some of them deliberately. So who is now, checking the behaviours of nations at war?
Well, look, I think this story is going to cause huge concerns, because it's really important that these kind of incidents are tracked and potentially in the future evidence is gathered if it is deemed that international law has been broken and potential war crimes have been committed. But this is also going to create another political row, because there's lots of people who are against a lot of these cuts to the development aid and to the Foreign Office. Of course, this is something that Justine will know lots about. Yeah. And, lots of people will also feel like, well, hang on a minute, Ollie Robbins has just been sacked. He was the guy leading the Foreign Office. He also was the person not just doing, you know, important sort of jobs like, you know,
I mean,
vetting.
while you're talking this, thousands of people came onto the streets in Lebanon for the funeral of a journalist who had been behind a vehicle that was hit and then had taken shelter.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely terrible. And, of course, there is still so much going on in terms of Gaza and in the West Bank as well. But just the point about kind of Ollie Robbins is that there is a huge amount of restructuring going on at the Foreign Office, which people are really worried about in terms of the real-life consequences, units being cut, all of this important work going. And he was the person leading that. There isn't a head of the Foreign Office at the moment. They're trying to... So all of this work is going to be affected as well.
One of the questions that was put to the government certainly was what risk assessment was undertaken before you got rid of Sir Ollie Robbins because of the work he's doing. So it's a very live issue. I know you want to come back on that formally, but we need to move on. I do apologise. Lots more to come. More of the papers coming out. We'll take a look at all of the McSweeney issues, Morgan McSweeney that is, and the Mandelson saga, plus other stories. Back in a moment.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
More of the papers to look at. So let's head to the Daily Telegraph, and we're going to the Mandelson story again. I hear you sigh, but anyway, this is slightly different. Donald Trump's Justice Department is blocking Scotland Yard's investigation into Lord Mandelson. Intriguing stuff. Justine.
Indeed. The Met have, by the sounds of it, politely asked for the information that they need, and it hasn't been forthcoming. And now they're actually going to have to put in a formal application. It's all going to push back the Mandelson inquiry that the police are currently doing for, it says in this article, potentially 18 months. So I'm sure Keir Starmer will be delighted to hear that. Not.
Well, I don't think he will, actually, because I think, to be fair, I think Keir Starmer and most people in the Labour Party are absolutely furious with Peter Mandelson, particularly the allegations that he leaked sensitive information during the financial crisis, and you know, people see that as an act of great treachery to this country. So actually, I think that people in the Labour Party and Keir Starmer will want the full force of the law to happen and for there to be an inquiry without fear or favour.
Maybe America's got more on its plate, because the US Justice Department's internal watchdog said today that it would investigate how the department actually complied with the law requiring the release of these files, because so much was redacted. So the DOJ has got that to contend with, so it's got other fish. You were going to say something, though. I
think the point I was trying to make was this is an inquiry that needs to be finished sooner rather than later. Yeah. And so this just all pushes out the time frame in a way that I think is unhelpful on every level.
Well, it ain't over yet, is it? Because Morgan McSweeney's made words at the Times. Morgan McSweeney has denied, before his appearance next week in front of MPs, that he bullied civil servants into appointing Lord Mandelson's ambassador to the US. The suggestion had been that the PM's former chief of staff had told Sir Philip Barton, then Permanent Secretary at the Foreign Office, to just bleep approve Mandelson's appointment.
And Morgan McSweeney is saying that, and friends of Morgan McSweeney were saying that he doesn't really use language like that. But it all will be revealed on Tuesday, because not only is Morgan McSweeney appearing, but the aforementioned Sir Philip Barton will be appearing. And, of course, the key question, which Emily Thornberry, who I think has done an absolutely cracking job as the chair of that select committee, and many of the other members as well, the key question that they will want to test was Sir Ollie Robbins correct when he said that Number 10 was putting this undue pressure on the Foreign Office to get on with this? And he indicated from his evidence that Sir Philip Barton would very much corroborate that. Well, we will find out on Tuesday.
Let's go to the Daily Express. There is one last chance. Your true stories will have the power to inspire MPs to change the terrible criminal law that is causing so much unnecessary suffering. Esther Ranson on the assisted dying bill, which is likely to, what, fail this week?
Sounds like it's just going to
be talked out, yeah?
Be talked out because it's a private member's bill, so it has to pass in the parliamentary session in which it's introduced. The Commons have voted for this bill. It seems to have absolutely got gridlocked and run into the sand in the Lords. And speaking as a former MP, I think it's unacceptable to have the House of Lords frustrate the House of Commons in its will. And I think it's another indication of why you need constitutional reform. We cannot allow an unelected House to stop the elected House from pursuing...
I've got 30 seconds, I understand. Let's go to a member of the House of Lords. Right, do you agree?
I agree with Justine. I think it's outrageous. I do think that this does need to be properly scrutinised. Personally, I wish the government had actually brought it forward as a government bill, so proper scrutiny could be made. But I'm afraid some members of the House of Lords have been abusing self-regulation and filibustering. And I think this is going to result in quite a lot of questions about how the House of Lords operates.
Aisha Hazarika, Justine Greening, so good to have you on. Thank you both very much indeed. Thank you. The sport is next.
With respect, Minister, answer the question. It's you.
Hello and welcome, I'm Cathy Newman.
So could the outcome of these elections be manipulated? New me, new show, new furniture. Hard news needs a hard chair. I feel like I'm in therapy. Oh, there's room for two on this one. Do you think people will take me seriously with my feet up?
Sorry, madam, but we're closing now.
Oh, sorry. Sofa sorted. Let's get this show on the road.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin. All alcohol products, not just wine, will have labels warning of liver disease and the link to fatal cancers.
Is it crazy?
It's an industry worth around €14 billion a year. That's why Italy sees this Irish plan as such a threat. It's always instructive and occasionally entertaining to hear what Donald Trump has to say on the issue of Brexit.
She's got her own way of doing it, that's okay.
The job takes me to every corner of this island. The rioting stemmed from a horrific daytime stabbing attack at a primary school in the city centre. The scale of the rioting and the destruction it caused is pretty much unprecedented here in Dublin. Jerry, any comment on the judge's decisions? Do you feel vindicated, Jerry? This is the end, the somewhat chaotic end, of a 52-day trial. Micheál Martin could be set to head back to government with the Taoiseach Simon Harris. Are you confident that you can now return as Taoiseach?
I'm cautiously optimistic and excited.
A mystery press conference hastily called. Leo Varadkar strode out and didn't disappoint.
I am resigning as President and Leader of Fine Gael effective today.
The people here sometimes feel they're somewhat neglected by the Irish government, to the extent that this place is sometimes known as the Forgotten County. The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks, but none have ever been found. If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland. Sky News, get the full story first.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... My darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed. Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
People are directly protesting. The whole neighbourhood has rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan.
I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty. War isn't pretty.
Well, let's catch up with the latest sport now. Here's David.
After 20 years at Liverpool Football Club, I'll be leaving at the end of the season.
For generations, English football has stayed in England. The Premier League was their home. But things are changing.
Real Madrid have signed Jude Bellingham.
The greatest football club in the history of the game.
Vista el Barça.
Fichar por un club como Real Madrid.
And action. A record-breaking number are now playing in Europe's other 4 top leagues. And it's not just English players, it's the same for Scottish players, Welsh players and Republic of Ireland players too. And it's a range of ages, from academy graduates seeking a first-team opportunity to established stars playing in their prime. More and more are packing their bags. The question is, why?
It's obviously a massive year and a great opportunity to, create some history.
Could have been in England and just stayed all my life, but I want to go and, test myself.
It's a short career, you want to try and make the most of it.
I'm leaving London, I'm going to a city that I've never heard of before.
I didn't think twice, I thought, I'm going, I want to go and experience it.
There is more to life, to football, than just England and the Premier League.
Love and appreciation is always good, always motivates you to succeed and leave a legacy.
No brainer for my career, I have to go here.
Be careful what you wish for sometimes.
just felt like the time was right. You know, I needed to be playing at the highest level. I needed to be playing Champions League.
For much of his career, Harry Kane was defined by one statistic that he couldn't escape. The narrative around England's captain became about trophies and not goals. So, in the summer of 2023, he made a statement. It's a move that's paid off, with the former Tottenham striker making breaking Bundesliga scoring records look easy. So what continues to motivate him?
To keep scoring goals, obviously, on a personal level, it's been my best start to a season in my career. So it shows me that I can keep improving. It shows me that I can keep getting better. And obviously 2026 is no different. And you add the World Cup to that in the summer as well. It's obviously a massive year and a great opportunity to, you know, create some history.
41 goals possible for you?
Yeah, I think it's possible, especially with the start I've had so far this year. Yeah, I mean, that record's an incredible record and it's going to be hard to beat, I know that. But yeah, I never want to say no to these things. I always think it's great to try and have those ambitions.
Kane's impact was proof that success didn't require staying in England's spotlight. His trophy-winning exploits at Bayern Munich are being matched by another English superstar at another European giant. Jude Bellingham played an instrumental part in Real Madrid's Champions League.
Well, all the top stories coming up for you, including the breaking news tonight from Donald Trump, who's hosted a meeting at the Oval Office at the White House, that the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon will now be extended by 3 weeks. All of the top stories coming up for you right here on Sky News in the Red Night News.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to war.
I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim. What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter? Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news. Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking...
Thank you so much.
...trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access. Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget. Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?